Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me okay? All right. So we are here to talk about Youth and Civic Tech. I'm going to invite the rest of the panelists to come right ahead. I've been told we do not have 4 hours to talk about this, which was what they originally promised. So that means we have to find a great way to use the next 40 minutes? 40 minutes. All right, I got 40 minutes. So we have a great set of panelists here that come from many different ways of life in terms of technology and youth, and I'll have them introduce themselves. But before they do, I just wanted to get a pulse of the room. Who here knows what civic tech means? Who's heard this term before? Okay, 1 or 2. You want to give a definition real quick of what you understand it to be? You've heard it before. All right, great. So who here has a smartphone? Okay, let me rephrase that. Who here does not have a smartphone? All right, that makes it a lot easier. Who here has used their smartphone to work with your organization or do something that makes your community better or promotes a cause or something like that? Who has done that? You've actively used your smartphone. Okay, perfect. So you're already working in civic tech. Civic tech, and you can use this definition really as a basic version, is any sort of technology, our apps, websites, or things that you can build that helps make government, be it your local or your national government, operate better. And I think everyone here has some vested interest in their government working better. Can I get agreement on that, or not too sure, or still figuring it out? Okay.
Can we have people say
So I know it's been a long day. I'm going to ask for your attention for the next, I know we have 40 minutes, but if you guys are fully focused, we'll stop in 30. What we'll do is we'll try to make this as interactive as possible. So I will ask that as we speak, or if you already have questions about technology, how youth can get involved and how we're seeing it, start writing those down. And every 10 minutes or so, I'm going to take a pulse of the room of how many questions they are. And I'll let you guys guide me on when we switch from just the panel speaking to when we begin with the Q&A section. Does that sound all right? All right, perfect. So with that, my name is Emmanuel Simon. I am one of the founding partners of OpenJC. This is my second time at the Youth Assembly, and I'm really glad to be back again to speak to everyone here around technology, around civic tech, and how youth are getting involved as we see it in our line of work. I will now open the floor for all of the panelists to introduce themselves, and then we can get started with some introductory questions. To start, you just press the left button. There.
Hello, my name is Michael Denton. I'm the Executive Director of Code Interactive. Our organization has the mission of inspiring the next generation of diverse technology leaders from underserved communities. We have a curriculum that we give to high school teachers, train them to deliver it, and support them throughout the school years so that they can empower their students to use technology to become social entrepreneurs.
Hi, everyone. Before I introduce myself, everyone who can hear, can you clap once? Everyone who can hear, can you clap twice? All right, there we go. My name is Akisia Grigsby, and I am OpenJC's founding partner and co-executive director. My background is I've worked in entertainment for more than 22 years. I branded celebrities like Jay-Z, Kanye West, the whole gamut you can think of. Who's Jay-Z? Who does not know who Jay-Z is? I used to be the creative director of Sean John Clothing, Bad Boy Entertainment, Vivo.com, if anyone is familiar with that online site. And then in 2007, I left corporate to establish more of a community type business.
Hello, I'm Sharad Hegde. I'm one of the leaders of a civic tech organization in Jersey City, which is a smaller town right across the water from New York City. My background is basically in Wall Street finance. So I worked with Wall Street companies for more than 15 years, companies like Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, and a company which is no longer that, Bear Stearns. And then one day I had my Jerry Maguire moment. I decided that this is not what I want to be, and eventually that path led me to civic tech. And I've been working with this organization for more than a year. We are a bunch of volunteers, technologists who are getting together, spending their time and energies into building technologies to make our local government function better.
Hi, good day. My name is Joel O'Neill. I haven't left corporate yet, but by day, I'm a product manager at E-Trade Financial. I work basically developing products for electronic trading for customers. By night, I am not Batman. I'm a member of a group called Global Leadership Interlink. And what it is, it's a network of professionals and students around the globe with an emphasis on ethical leadership development and training. So we have chapters across, I think, probably across all the continents in the US, Latin America, the Caribbean, Africa, Oceania, Europe. And we also have a professional arm and also a campus arm. So hopefully, throughout the day, I'll be able to share more about that organization with you. I personally am one who went from being part of the campus group and now lead one of the campus chapters on the East Coast here in the US. And also for the professional group, I'm one of the global coordinators responsible for communications and technology. Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you. That's it. We hope you had a good time. No. All right, great. Any questions so far? Just on backgrounds? I'm kidding. All right, so then let's start with maybe 2 or 3 questions. I'll open this one across the panel. In your own words, how would you describe the civic tech movement, especially with respect to your organization and obviously in context of youth involvement?
So there are some key definers, and if you fit in this space, then you can call your business a civic tech business, regardless of how young or old you are. The first one is making sure that you influence the ecosystem, making sure that you can change the government practices, making sure that you deliver outcomes that are based on the organization's focus areas. For example, with OpenJC, our focus areas are public safety, health and human services, economic development, and communication and engagement. And then the last one is the use of technology to solve problems, essentially.
To add to that, okay, I need to press that button. So Code for JC, which is Code for Jersey City, is a chapter or a local brigade of an national organization, or at this point, a global organization called Code for America. And we believe in this core idea that we use volunteer organizations or volunteers to come together, bunch together, and contribute and build applications or contribute their time to build applications that would help government function better. And even though we have the name Code in the Code for America, this organization is not just about programmers. It's anybody can participate in it. If you have the right mindset and right energy, you can participate in it. Definitely programmers or people who are familiar with technologies, which as a youth, all of you guys are a key part of this organization.
The movement is enormous right now, right? I mean, the idea that technology can make a change in civic interactions is more real today than it's ever been in the history of humanity, right? Like, you as a generation grew up with technology, right? You know what the mobile screen is from as far back as you can remember, and the way that you figure out how to apply that to the issues that are affecting you and your community is incredibly unique. And every single day I get to work with youth that come up with brilliant concepts and ideas that I never would have thought of simply because I grew up with a TV that I had to stand up and turn the channel on, right? I'm impressed by the number of folks in the room, but more than that, I'm impressed by the potential of each of you and all of you together to make an incredible impact. It's a groundswell, and the future looks incredibly promising because of your familiarity with technology. You
want to go? Oh, you're okay. All right. So then second, I think, leading off of that, and you've probably already begun talking about this, but how would you describe why it's so important for youth in particular to be involved with civic tech, especially now, not necessarily waiting, but finding ways to get involved in 2015, in 2016, right now?
See, as we have been saying, you are the youth, and you have grown up with technology. You have grown up with, iPads and the internet. I was having a conversation with my 10-year-old one day, and I was asking him, when we grew up, we had only less than 10 channels on TV. And he shrugged his shoulders and said, it doesn't matter, you could have just gone online. And that was a joke, and most of the people in this audience don't get it because you have grown up with internet just like my son. So it's important for you guys to take that mindset and the skill set that you guys have and apply it not just for your corporate career, but take a slice of it and apply towards the civic or the government, starting with local government, your counties, and as you apply that to make your local government function better. That's why it's very important to get started. And you guys are all activists, as we know, and that's why you guys are here. But as a part of being activists, can you also apply technology or work towards applying technology to make your government function better?
So I'm just going to keep it real, how we say here in the U.S. Bottom line, you're going to school, right? You're not really necessarily working the way us older folks are. So you have time to create projects. Unfortunately, whereas adults, we have to split our time. We have to make money, and then we have to figure out a way to do the civic tech that eventually will get money because we have to get funding. So you are in the prime time of your life to be able to get involved and get involved with projects and problem solve and using technology-driven solutions.
Yeah. So how many of you guys know how to code? How many of you guys, by show of hands, can write a little bit of code? So kudos to you. I give you a massive round of applause. For those of you that don't worry, right? The reality is that technology is evolving so fast that there are platforms and systems out there for you to leverage to prototype your idea into something that can demonstrate what you believe is the technical solution to your problem, right? There are all kinds of opportunities for you, from Prototype on Paper, which is an app that lets you draw out what you want, take some pictures of it, and turn it into a functioning prototype of what you want, all the way through to app engines that will allow you to design it WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get, and then publish it to the App Store, right? So you guys have, the ecosystem is giving you the opportunity to solve the problems that are important to you. And as a 33-year-old, I do not know what problems are important to you, right? So you have the chance, you've been more empowered than any generation on earth to make a difference to things that matter to you in a way that none of us have.
So just really quick to touch upon what you said in the beginning, I am not a coder. I am a designer by trade or by skill, and I do marketing, right? Community engagement. What you can do is partner with a coder, and that's what we did with OpenJC. We partnered with a coder and a business-minded person. So that's another angle.
Let me ask, we have one question, I'm coming to you. Who here has heard of a hackathon before? Who here has attended a hackathon before? All right, those who do not have your hand up, two questions. For those who have heard of a hackathon before but have not attended, what was the reason that you did not attend it? Was it because you don't know how to code and you think it's only about coders? Just raise your hand if that's right. Was it just too far and just not convenient? Okay. I just want to make a point, jumping off of these two, that hackathons are essentially the 2015 version of the word workshop. It's not about coders, it's not about developers. Whether you write, whether you draw, whether you can record video, all of these parts are important and make the best projects that come out of hackathons. So I just want to make that very clear. Don't be scared of hackathons. In fact, chase them out, because it's a great way to meet and come together to build organizations, build apps, build tools that will work for what you're trying to address. Question? All right, let me do it in this order. So we'll go to there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, go ahead, number 1.
Hello, hello. Okay. Hi, my name is Diego. I'm from Mexico, and I live in Vancouver, Canada. And I make emphasis of that because of my point. Last year I worked with an organization called My Vision Global. We are a social business incubator, and that started in Montreal and expanded pretty much around the world. We got into Southeast Asia quite a bit in South America. Unfortunately, we couldn't get into Africa. And in Vancouver, which is like the Silicon Valley 10 years ago, it's booming. I went to hackathons. I saw how the youth is actually engaging into civic tech. Now, the issue that I ran into when we were opening chapters around the world was the fact that there's 60% of the world that doesn't have access to the internet, which is pretty much the one single source of for this industry, right? I guess my concern is, well, how can we really engage them? How can we really get in there? Perhaps through your organizations, if I can get your take in terms of what can we do more in terms of educating people in that 60% that doesn't have the knowledge, the internet, even they don't have access to English, which is perhaps the single one language for coding moving forward. So yeah, if you can just get your take in terms of that.
So civic tech isn't limited to mobile apps and web apps. There are really brilliant products that are being developed on texting technology, for instance. There are really brilliant pieces of technology that are being developed on handheld actual, like the maker community specifically is very brilliant, right? There's a ton of opportunities that are not code specific that allow people to become civic tech-minded entrepreneurs and socially minded entrepreneurs that I think people can begin to focus on in those communities until the web catches up to those areas geographically.
To give an example, OpenJC got funded $250,000 from Google, grant money, just to create a pilot of a public safety alert system. And what we do is we analyze existing data for the past 10 years. We create a computer program for it, and we analyze the trends of the crime that has happened, and we spit out messages on texting or email for those who have email. But the texting, I mean, pretty much almost everyone has some type of cell phone, whether it be one of the cheap ones or a smartphone device. But that's just to say that could be another approach.
Just to add to that, there is an organization called Code for Africa, who are very involved in remote places of Africa, trying to take technology and trying to help these governments and people in remote areas. So you can check that out.
Let me add one point, and then I'll stop being the talkative moderator. I think a key thing, especially around the world, is what you've raised there. There's a lack of the infrastructure in place to support this development. And sadly, if that's not addressed, you're going to continue to see a divide between those who have and those who don't. My philosophy, and I think it's growing around ICT centers around the world, is that until the infrastructure is fixed, we can't really move the needle there. However, one of the things that we have been finding is that through teaching, how to code, maybe it's on your phone, maybe it's, with the use of videos or different books that are offline tools, you now build capacity within your residents and your population who are now supposed to pressure the government. This infrastructure is a priority. We need to have high, broadband internet. 3G is not enough. We need to have better technology, tools being made accessible in educational systems across the entire country at all levels. So I think, the idea of not necessarily saying we don't have the infrastructure, what will happen, and more saying, look, we are developing the skills, we're doing our part, and if you do not keep the infrastructure at the pace that we're moving, well, sadly, we're going to have to go somewhere else that will take leverage of that.
If you don't plug people in, you're going to miss an opportunity.
Okay, question number 2. Yes.
The panel again. Okay, so I'm a student studying in high school in Pakistan right now. I'll be honest, I hadn't heard of civic tech before, and I believe the major reason is that it's not something that's out there a lot in Pakistan. It's not something the schools are talking about and stuff. So my first question is, how can we, me being a high school student, my delegation is sitting next to me, bring civic tech, its information to Pakistan? And also there's, whenever I come to the US, I see that there's so many new things here. And then when I go back to Pakistan, I see that it comes there later, like 6 months later, a year later. So how would you recommend that we, shorten this gap, make it smaller? Thank you.
So let me answer the first part of the question. So where are you based out of in Pakistan? Okay, so not too far away from Islamabad, in Peshawar, there is a very active organization called Code for Pakistan, which is a brigade for Code for America. They were here just last week. A few days ago, they were all here. They're a very active bunch. And if you contact them, they can certainly help you get started.
And to build on that, one of the key things is network. Get our information, and we will keep you plugged in to. Can you hear me even though I move away? Okay. Connect with us, and we will constantly remind you or send you, reminders, information of all the information that we get. So this room right here, there's so many students from all over. Make sure you get each other's email addresses or telephone numbers.
Thank you very much. Number 4. Yes.
Good morning, everyone. This is Joel from New York, State University of New York, Empire State College. I'm a computer science student. So my question is, I heard about this one is first time, Youth and Civic. Tell me about something, details about how can I involve there, how can I work there, how can I getting benefit from there, and how can benefit for I give them people for globally. Is that investing money or is that like company? How is safety security? Sorry?
I'm sorry. So to make sure I understand the question, you're asking how do you get
how to involve there? How can I open this website or something? Is that investing money or how can I getting benefit from there? And how can I benefit from for people? How can I help people with this organization or this company?
In civic technology.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay.
Is there any local organization in New York so I can about know more something else?
So from a funding perspective, there's 2 basic models, right? The first model is what's called bootstrapping, and that is you invest your personal time and commitment and funding out of your own pocket to ensure that the initial version of your program or your policy or your civic technology comes to life, right? Then you have a functioning prototype that you can fundraise against. The other is you articulate your idea very well and find folks in writing or in demonstration, and then find folks who want to support that financially to ensure that it comes to fruition. There are, from a nonprofit perspective, right? And then from there it breaks into 2 different scenarios. There's a nonprofit version and a for-profit. Either side of that scenario can still be a civic technology and can also be a social good product. But from there, the nonprofit side is traditionally funded from foundation and sometimes corporate funding. And then on the for-profit side, you end up with investments, either angel, Series A, or friends and family investing. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Can you stand up, please?
So I need to know, is there any local organizations? So,
yes.
Then
okay.
I can know about more, then I can go there. So something about us.
All right. I guess you said Newark, New Jersey, right? New York. Definitely we have code for New York, and it is called Beta NYC. If you Google for Beta, BETA NYC, they're very active organizations, or you can take our information and we can definitely connect you to the right person out there.
Repeat again, then I can write it down slowly.
Let's do that offline.
BETA
So I'll ask you
NYC.
to connect with them after, because we're getting the hard looks of time is running out. Joel, go ahead.
Also, you said you're studying computer science, right? So some that, I've recently finished grad school as well. In terms of thinking of things that you can do to get involved, you can start projects while you're in school as well. So I went to New York University, and we have an entire incubator that takes projects working with the business school, pairing business school students with the engineering school students, and they develop, prototypes. And if there's a good technological idea, we add the marketing and the business model around it. But my point is that you don't have to wait till you get into the workforce or you get, beyond your school years. A lot of the major companies, the Facebooks and they were all founded and started while these guys were in college still. So my point is, while you're in university or even at the high school level, you can start building those networks, but also using the skills that you have, working with your professors, your teachers, and you can start and kicking off projects, even if it's to improve your school, that could then grow, to things that you can work to improve your community. So,
thank you. All right,
I
number
second
5.
I second that motion.
Thank you. Number 5.
Very much for your work. So you've partially answered my question by talking about Code for Africa, but I still want to put it forward. So I went to the Jersey Code website for Jersey City, and I saw there some documents and some budgets from the local government that have been signed by the local government. And that kind of created a leap in my heart. I just thought, oh my God, how can a government trust you with such kind of documents and things like that? So it means you have a good relationship with like the governments you work with. And I'm just curious to know, how do you think we could duplicate that in Africa? Because, our governments are a bit more, tight for us to access it. What do you think is like the way we could, what did you do? How do you?
That's actually a perfect question for me, because I'm actually a case study. The work that we've done is actually a real-life case study. The first thing is, number one, you have to get the government to believe that you're powerful without even using money. And how do you do that? Number one, you identify your identity. Who are you? What is your organization that you want to create? Number two, you identify and profile your government officials and your community leaders. There's a show that I'm like fanatic. I don't know if it's overseas, but it's called Scandal, where they profile each of the clients. Essentially, you do exactly that. You profile your government leaders. And that's it. All of this is essentially like a marketing strategy. This is what we do in marketing and fundraising. Number three, you develop relationships with them. How do you do that? Well, you schedule like one-on-ones with them. You maybe go, ask them to lunch that you would, I don't know, just different ways. It depends on your area, but try to schedule a one-on-one so that you can ask questions about them. Don't tell them about you. Ask them about them. People love to be listened to. And, eventually, like, through that builds trust. And then 4, do not tell that you are powerful without using money. Those are the key things.
Her third point, you guys should all write this down. This is a very powerful mantra to live by when you begin to start any business, but specifically a civic tech business or a civic tech nonprofit, right? The mantra is ask for advice, get funding. Ask for funding and get advice, right? So when you want someone to believe in what you are doing, ask them for advice. Ask them for their opinion. It's going to be way more impactful than walking in with a request for funding.
As for working with tougher governments is concerned, there's an organization called Code for Caribbean, and who did a similar budget-related application in Jamaica. So you can look it up as well.
The last thing, and we heard someone talk about it this morning, the power of open data. This is a movement that's happening across the globe. You want to find out more about what open data is being released in your country, in your region, in your area, and join that movement to get more of that released. And that will allow you to see exactly what you saw in Jersey City, because that data is open for the public. Number 6.
Let me just bring one point that I forgot to address. Develop relationships with your local media, journalists. Be friends with them. Whenever you're at an event or a function, a board meeting, whatever it is, always go up to them, introduce yourself. Every single time. They may forget who you are, but still, introduce yourself. Even if you don't like them or what they write about, introduce yourself. And the second point is never take anything personal. So if the government, you can't stand them, they're corrupt, and you just don't take anything personal. So.
Number 6.
Yeah, so my questions are, how do we use technology more often to help out our governments? Like, what are their requirements? Because there are, some of our governments are like so strict, and they don't believe in such things. And the second question is, like, how can innovations, including schools, including technology, be like sustained in schools? Because there are some schools that are in remote areas, so they are still like on that paper and pen motive. So how do you change that?
I'll take one aspect of it. Since you are activists in your local areas, one thing you can push for is for your government to talk to Google. Google has a project called Loon, where they are trying to provide internet access through weather balloons, or weather type balloons, like in the stratosphere. They're going to put balloons which are going to provide internet access. So if you can pressurize your government to work with them, that would help bring internet access.
All right, we've officially been given the boot. So I will say we'll be around. Please come find us, talk to us, tell us what's going on, ask us the rest of your questions. We hope this has been helpful. Thank you very much for giving us your attention. We appreciate it.